All right, this is gonna be a sequence for someone with neck pain. This is something I'm using myself because I have some neck pain from years of wrestling and my head getting ripped in different directions. So I'm gonna go through the most gentle thing to the most challenging thing. So if you have a lot of pain, you're not necessarily gonna go through this whole sequence, but you'll start with the movements I give you in the beginning and you'll progress to some of the things that challenge you a little more. So first tool is gonna be this Theracane. And the hook of an umbrella or a regular cane can be effective, but this bigger hook allows me to cover more ground. So I'm going to use this to hit any little points that are tender along the back of my neck and along my shoulder blade. So I'll start off kind of towards the top of my shoulder into my upper trap, and I'm looking for any point that feels a little sensitive. Now, I'm not trying to really torture myself with this. I'm trying to apply light pressure, so on a 0 to 10 scale, I have pain that's maybe like a 3, 4 out of 10, a little bit uncomfortable but not incredibly severe. So if I find a spot like that, typically I'm going to hold pressure for somewhere in the 30 to 60 seconds. And typically when I find a spot, I'll like to do like little motions of my neck, just so I'm moving that tissue. I'm not moving into a stretch. And I'll take breaks, like sometimes I'll move through a little bit of motion and then I'll just stop moving and I'll just hold pressure. But I like that mixture of pressure with a little bit of motion. And I start off towards the top and I'm looking for any little point along the top of my shoulder blade that jumps out to me. Like for me, I got a point right there, so I'm holding light pressure. I'll start to travel closer to my neck. Sometimes I'll even start to take, you see with this, I have the bottom of the cane angled down, so I can pull a little bit down and across. And as I come a little bit closer to my neck, I'll start to angle this more across. And I'm just looking for any little point that jumps out. Now sometimes I'll find a point that's really sensitive and is maybe not great to put pressure on. So for that, I may avoid that point. So if I hit a spot and it almost makes me jump, I may kind of work around that area to start. And then if I come back to it, typically it'll be a little less sensitive. And then you'll see I'll start to angle down, even along that medial border of my scapula. Lots of sensitive points that everybody pretty much has back here. And I'm just looking for anything that jumps out at me. Now just know that sometimes people do themselves some harm by finding a spot, really pressing into it because they kind of desire that feeling of trying to release that pain. But if something really hurts and I push on it hard, the after effect may not be a positive one. The after effect may be, oh, this hurts more now. So for me, I'm typically limited with right rotation, and I feel a little bit of pain kind of up through here and nothing with left. So I'll find some of these spots, and usually after I've hit a few of them, I'll come back and I'll recheck right rotation, and it won't hurt as much. Or I'll go a little further. So I want to make sure that I'm getting a positive after effect from this. If afterwards I feel like I'm in more pain, well, that's not doing a lot to help me, right? So keep it light, keep it real gentle. This is a little easier than a lacrosse ball or a tennis ball because I can really control how much pressure I'm applying, okay? So that's phase one. Now next step is going to be in a chair, trying to move those areas. So this is just going to be my typical seated chin tuck where I take my hands behind my head. I very lightly lean back against this chair. I'm just going to take this hand away so you can see, and I'm lightly going to tuck my chin and lean back. Now if I'm really sensitive back here, just this light nodding motion may be enough to apply a stretch, right, very gently. So my hand is just acting as a portable headrest. I'd usually use two hands, right? If someone's really sensitive, I'll start with them on their back. If it's not too bad, I'll tuck and then I'll also press back while I maintain the tuck. Just watching that some people, when they go to the pressing back, they actually lose the tuck and they start to do this. So it's nothing aggressive, it's tuck, light pressure back, and that's going to apply light tension through the back of my neck. Almost a self-traction though, that it's lifting the base of my skull away from my neck. So that's option number 2, right? Progressing from there, I may want to add resistance. So I'm going to take a band, TheraBand around the back of my head, okay? And I'm going to take my hands, gripping the band, and I'm going to press out somewhat of a tricep extension, right? So now I have this band pulling me into not so great posture. I'm having to resist that motion. So maintaining the chin tuck, and a mirror is very helpful for this, right? So I just want to make sure that I'm maintaining that same tuck of my chin. And I'll do this more for endurance. This isn't a motion where I need to do heavy lifting. It's more of the endurance of holding my head up all day. So I may do this for anywhere in the 1 to 3 to 5 minutes, right? And typically I'll get bored just sitting here. So I may throw in some little variations. So initially I'll do it till I feel a little tired, and I'll use a mirror to make sure I'm not starting to lose that tuck in my chin. The back of my arms may actually get more tired than my head. So periodically I may give myself a little break and then come back in to holding again, making sure I secure that chin tuck. Sometimes I'll throw in a little bit of a turn. Same thing, maintaining the tuck so that I'm biasing maybe a little bit more of one side of my neck. Tuck, turn. Sometimes I'll throw in little nods side to side. So the whole time, the real key is that I'm maintaining this pull back of my head over my body as I do anything. And I don't want to start moving so much that I'm going through these big rotations, and then I may just start to slip out of position and start to do something like this. So the real key is that I'm keeping this posture, and that's going to be engaging a lot of these structures that hold my head back over my body. So that's phase 2, and definitely more for endurance. Now, like for me, sometimes the single band's a little too easy. So if I'm really feeling excited about the exercise, I'll double the band in half. So it's kind of 2 bands. And this is actually pretty stiff, so this is pretty hard with a green TheraBand. So I don't want to necessarily be sitting there all day. Like for this is going to tire me out definitely in the 30 seconds to 2 minute range. So ideally, I want to feel like I am working here. So I may go to like the TheraBand folded in half to feel like I'm accomplishing a little more. And for this, I really like to have a mirror, because as I add that resistance, it's really easy for me to kind of lose position. So I want to see that I'm able to hold that same posture. And just a quick side note, I don't want to let my lower back be doing this either. So I want to make sure that my lower back's relaxed. Back of my arms are going to get tired, which is not a bad thing, right? Okay, so those 3 I think are going to be a great regimen, and I've been doing it a lot, and it seems to be helping with my neck. Now the last one that I like is something where you're over top of something against gravity. And I'm going to use a Bosu ball. It could be anything, an ottoman, a pillow. So hopefully you can get a good shot of me here, right? So I'm going to lay over top of this Bosu ball. And it's going to allow me to kind of just round over top of something, right? Now here, without the band, now I'm just going to be lifting my head against gravity. And it's helpful if you have someone that can kind of watch you. So I want to see if I can pull my chin, right, into that same tuck position. But I want to try in my lower back not to arch a lot. So that Bosu ball, or pillows under my abdomen, I want to try and keep this as flat as I can. So I'm almost kind of pulling my body into this straight position. And like I said, I may not be in great position because I don't have a mirror to look at. But I want to feel like I'm pulling myself up against gravity, but not overly arching here, right? And also with my hands, I can see I'm trying to pull them even with my trunk, but it's the same thing. I don't want to feel like I'm coming way up here. And sometimes a post is also a good cue to know if I'm doing what I'm supposed to. And the mirror is absolutely helpful. I don't have that right now, so it may not look perfect. But as I get down here, I'll take this over top. And ideally, this post is touching me everywhere. And I can tell you when I look in the mirror, the spot I start to miss is my lower back because I arch too much. So I actually try and come down, and I do maybe a little bit of a pelvic tilt to try and flatten that into my lower back as well. And then this is the position I try to hold. So once again, another endurance position where I'm trying to keep everything lined up. And I can feel that for me, the tendency is to start to do this, and I get that space in here. So I actually have to think about almost rounding forward a little bit so that I'm a little bit more straight. This is another one for time. I may also, while I'm here, try and take some deep breaths. Trying to push my belly into the Bosu ball. But just the focus of trying to avoid, like I can do this and probably stay here all day and not feel like I'm working very hard. But as soon as I have to come down, I feel like my whole system is challenged quite a bit more to try and maintain this control. And for me, I always like to check, as I'm doing these different things, how that impacts my right rotation. And I can tell you right now, just in doing that quick little instruction and not going through the full sequence, it's better. So that's my test. And it's nice if you have your own test. If you say, my neck hurts when I bend down, well, how does it feel with each one of these interventions? Does that ability to bend down feel better, feel worse? So you know if one of them feels worse, like if digging with that Theracane irritates it, well, you need to back off on how hard you're pushing, or maybe you skip that step altogether. So good luck.